Hey guys, this is Dragonfly and welcome to episode number 9 of our Halo 5 Force tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and discuss lighting and many different uses and ways that we can go ahead and mess around with this. And it's going to be a very insightful and interesting episode this time around, so we're going to go ahead and see how we can use lighting in different ways to enhance gameplay elements, add a lot more depth and immersion to the gameplay, and even add an emotional tone and using lighting as a guide point to get players to where you would like them to go. So first things first, I want to go ahead and warn you that this map title is the best map that you can use in order to mess around with the lighting, because it's one of the few maps that really do allow absolute darkness without any bugs or glitches getting in the way. You can use other maps such as Overgrown, Parallax, among other things, but title still to this day is the most reliable map out of all of them. So let's go ahead and get started. If you press the U key on Halo 5 Force PC, you're gonna take a look at the map options, and these are basically settings and traits for the entire map itself. So we're gonna go ahead and focus on our lighting in the theme and skybox section. Currently, the map is in the clear skybox, which is the brightest one out of them all. And if we were to change it to another theme or skybox, such as Paradise, the lighting is going to change a bit. Then we go to Stormy, for a more gloomy environment. And then we have Meteor Shower, which is the darkest environment out of all of them. But you're still going to use Stormy as the darkest setting for your map. We'll go ahead and cover this later. Well, in this case, I guess we can go ahead and start now. Alright, so we currently have Stormy as our default dark map, and the reason behind that is because it's the player model gets affected by the lighting in Stormy, but it does not get affected by the lighting in Meteor Shower. And let me go ahead and show you a brief example real quick. So we're going to go ahead and create a very simple box, a very simple shed, in order to show you what I mean. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and create something very simple here. So it's not gonna look pretty at all, but we'll get it done. Alright. So with the default lighting and gloom, it looks a little bit darker. There's definitely some shade going on. As you can see, the player model is affected by the lighting in general. If we were to change the settings to Meteor Shower, the player model is not going to be affected by light. Well, it's going to be affected. It's not going to be affected that much by lighting. The effect is a lot smaller. The weapon can definitely be affected by the lighting, but the player model not so much. So let's go ahead and switch back to Stormy. Now, the next thing we're going to show you is that I'm going to show you how to create a dark environment. And I'm going to go ahead and expand on this tiny little shed, and I'm going to turn it into a hallway to show you how we can go ahead and make this a lot darker. So, as you can see, it's still, you know, plenty of illumination and everything. And the trick to make this a really dark map is to actually mess around with the screen effects. But you want to use a very specific screen effect. So you want to click on the left arrow until you reach the gloom, right? So in Forge, if you were to press the tilde key right under the escape key, hold down Control tilde, it's gonna generate the lighting in order to, you know, sharpen the shadows and the contrast. And this only works effectively with gloom. So as you can see, the player character's model is completely dark. You can't see a thing in this hallway. And so now we created a very dark map. Now if we were to change it to Meteor Shower, the map, like, it would still be really dark, but the player character model would still be totally visible as if he was not affected by the lighting at all. And that's what makes Meteor Shower unreliable. these types of maps. So you want to go ahead and switch back to story. Okay, great. So that would be how to create a very dark map. You do want to pay attention to which filter you're using. Gloom is by far the most reliable one for creating the darkness that you need. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next section of this video. And now that we've shown you how you can create a dark environment, now I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can effectively illuminate the environment in order to, well, be able to help players navigate through the dark environment. So let's go ahead and start with something simple. You're going to press O for Object Library, and we're going to go ahead and head over to Extras. And on the first selection, we're going to go ahead and click Lighting. So this section is going to show you a number of items that you can use to light an area up. They're usually in the form of physical objects such as a beacon or a light bulb or a light bar, and they pretty much illuminate a certain way and come with their own, light settings. But usually you want to go ahead and use invisible light object, and basically it's a object that can illuminate an environment, but it's not a physical object that you can see, such as this. So it's pretty cool how you can mess around with lighting in Halo 5 Forge, because there's a lot of ways you can actually customize this to be able to provide the adequate type of lighting that you're looking for, and it's a very efficient system to do so. So you want to go ahead and press P for object properties, and we want to go ahead and scroll to the bottom of the properties, and we will find all of the properties for the light itself. So basically the light can be customized in a lot of different ways. We currently have a spotlight where you can actually change it to a point light in order to illuminate a surrounding area, or you can just switch it back to spot to pretty much illuminate a specific spot. This box, you always want to go ahead and check mark it no matter what, because this actually allows the light to adapt to changing environments instead of not illuminating certain things when it's supposed to. So it's pretty important. You want to use dynamic. You don't want to overdo it on the lighting simply because it could slow the engine down, but chances are that's not really going to happen because of the lighting objects. So we want to go ahead and leave this on for now. You can also change the color of the light itself. It could be pretty much any color of the palette that you like, but we're going to go ahead and leave it white for the purpose of this tutorial. You can also change the length of the light, and you can also change the fall off ratio to see how far you can see the light before it disappears. And there's a number of other settings that you can mess around with as well to your liking. You can also add a lens flare to your light object, and there's a few selections regarding this, but they're pretty good. Some of them are better than others. Most likely you'll be using maybe one or two of them across your maps. So you can also add a cone to your light, and basically these cones have different animations associated with them. You can actually change the length and width of these cones to your liking, and that way you can go ahead and pretty much add a pretty cool effect to the lights in your map. So this is some of the selections that we can use. We have also a GOBO section. It basically just shows the animation of the light once it touches the surface of an object. So once this point is, this spotlight is pointed at an object, it's basically going to do a really cool animation on it. And there's different ways to do it. Clouds is one of my favorite because it gives the impression that, there's like an open area on the ceiling or something. And basically it has a lot of pretty crazy animation types. So it's the one that you'd like the most, and that would be up to you to determine how you would like to use this. However, you can only use this if it's a spot, because if it's a point, you won't be able to do any of that stuff. What you can do instead with a point, most of the animations remain the same. Looks like you can also do a cone with the point as well. That's pretty cool, but you can't do GOBO. What you can do instead with both points and spots is animate the light itself. You can add a flicker to it, and you can also customize the speed of this flicker. You can also mess around in different patterns as well, like horror, pulse, candlelight, blink, strobe, among other things. It's up to you what you would like to do. It's perfectly customizable. We'll go ahead and leave this alone for now. Now for the point, you can also do, you know, different kind of things. But let's go ahead and focus on what we can do with this lighting. So lights are scriptable, at least this object is, and you can do a lot of pretty cool stuff with it. So in this section of the tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and create a light switch at the end of this room to turn on and off the lights at will. And the way we're gonna go ahead and do this, one of our methods that we can do, which is very simple, is to create a switch that can turn it on and off. So instead of using a terminal, we're gonna go ahead and use a keypad. And as a friendly reminder, this circle determines the boundary where the player can interact with a switch. And this keypad will be responsible for turning on and off this light. So let's go ahead and do some scripting real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and add a script here, and our event is going to be the interacted event. And what we're gonna go ahead and do is go to the power set action, and we're gonna toggle it on and off. It's just gonna switch on and off on the alpha channel. So this other light is gonna have two scripts. The first one is when the power channel is on. We're going to use the spawn action, and this parameter checks if you want to force it to spawn even if a player is occupying that space. You want to click yes because you want this light to spawn no matter what. This is going to be a very simple script, so spawn no matter what. And we're going to create a second script that does the opposite and checks the opposite to see if it's turned off, and it's going to use the despawn action. And for the parameter in objects, we're going to leave it alone, and we're going to leave it as this so that the object can despawn itself upon command once the alpha channel is turned off. So this is going to be really simple. Let's go ahead and do it. Hold on. Try that. Set. Okay. Spawn. Despawn. Okay. I think I didn't hit it right. It's kind of weird. Give me a second here. Oh, sorry, I forgot to turn on scripting. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. There we go. Okay, cool. So I managed to turn it off, and now I managed to turn it back on. Let me go ahead and push this a little bit. Okay, cool. Off, on. See? That's pretty much how it works. Let me go ahead. There we go. On, off. On, off. Just like that. So that's pretty cool, and that's just one way that you can mess around with the lighting in Halo 5. So let's go ahead and head over to our next section to see how we can go ahead and mess around with lanterns and allow players to freely navigate a dark environment with a lantern. Okay, now that we showed you how we can mess around with scripting and stationary lighting, we're going to go ahead and show you how to create a lantern that allows players to freely move around their environment and illuminate their environment. So generally, you can pretty much add a light to almost every single one of these objects, but for the sake of convenience, ideally you want to create something that players can carry with them. So the simplest way that I know how to do this is to pretty much create an object. Let's go ahead and use a ball for now. And this object is going to be responsible for drawing a light towards it via scripting. Now let's go ahead and use this light. Okay, so we created an invisible light, right? Now, this light, we can go ahead and add a label to it. And the label will be user alpha. Now it's very important that this light, you turn it into a dynamic, check dynamic on. Every time you're creating a lantern or a light that's going to move around an environment, you do want to go ahead and check this box. It's very important that you do so, otherwise the light may not function properly and it will not along with the object that it's supposed to follow. So I totally lost the light. Where is it? Hold on. Where's the light? Hold on. Okay, let's go ahead and just try this again. Okay, so this light. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and place it here real quick. And we wanna go ahead and check dynamic. We wanna add a label to it, and this is going to be labor user alpha. Okay, great. So what about this one? This object, let's go ahead and remove the label so we don't run into any issues in custom games. And basically we wanna go ahead and set the physics to normal. To allow it to move properly without any issues. And basically and that should be it for now. Let's go ahead and create our script, our event. We're gonna pick timer check, and we're gonna make it check constantly for the timer. It's very important to do this because it'll help smooth out the movement of the lantern, and it will keep it immediately placed on top of the object. So in this case, let's go ahead and pick move offset. Okay, so under move offset, we want to go ahead and go to the object settings and pick label. Then we're gonna go ahead and use label alpha, and we're gonna go ahead and pick the nearest one. Okay, great. We're gonna check local opt and put it on global axis. We're not going to touch any of these for now. The time, we want to go ahead and put it to 0.10, so it will immediately be on top of the sports ball, and we're going to go ahead and leave this alone. So now, as soon as I let go of this object, the lantern should be moving immediately towards the ball. What's this? Let me turn this off real quick. Yeah, that was probably some interference from that sports ball. So let's go ahead and try again. And this object is what? User alpha. Timer check. Paste. Control. What's this object? There we go. Okay. So this light is going to be a point. It's going to be dynamic. And now we have our lantern. So let's go ahead and turn the switch on real quick. It's a little bit annoying. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Alright. Let's go back here. So we have our lantern, right? Now we can freely navigate a dark area with our lantern. And that's pretty much how it works. The cool thing about this particular object is that you can actually toss the lantern and it'll actually go and illuminate the other side of the map. At least the other side of the area. So that's one other way that you can use to pretty much create a lantern object. This method is not perfect. It can be a little bit buggy simply because if you have multiple lantern objects, they might actually be fighting each other for the lanterns, and it could cause one object to have all of the lights on it, while the rest of the lantern objects don't have anything. So you do want to be careful about how much lanterns you want to put in a given map, because there could be a lot of interference regarding that. Anyway, let's go ahead and take this outside and use a better example of how we can go ahead and use lanterns in a map. So, where is the light? Okay, so the light is here. As you can see, it's still present. It still has the same label and everything. Now, instead of using a ball, we want to go ahead and use a weapon instead. So let's go ahead and use a shotgun. And what we're gonna do with this shotgun is that we are going to give it the same script that we did with the ball, in which we're gonna use a timer to check for it. And then we're gonna use the move offset action. We're gonna pick label, alpha. We're gonna pick the nearest one. And we're gonna turn off local. We're gonna go ahead and put 0.10 on this. And there we go. It should be moving directly to the shotgun. Okay, cool. So as you can see, now we have a shotgun lamp. It's not a flashlight, but it's good enough. So that's pretty much how it works. This is how we can go ahead and use objects and flip them to turn them into lanterns. And that's pretty much how it works. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe.